Hey, yo!
Let me talk to you!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another edition of the Other Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance. My name's Tim. I go by NWA Gold. I am joined by these two handsome gentlemen here today. Jeremy, he's wrestling with the MMA. How are you, sir?
Doing well.
Good to hear it. Dave Scooby, my friend, how are you doing today?
A lot better than CM Punk.
Yeah, guys.
I believe so.
Yeah, what seems that? Why is Punk trending on Twitter? I thought that music was, largely sort of off the center of, the music industry. You haven't heard a lot about Punk recently.
Punk rock will never die in my house.
Yeah, same here, buddy. Listen, that we're not an AEW podcast, but holy moly, is that a storyline? We were talking about it before the show started, and if this is a work, it's got me hook, line, and sinker, and it makes me want to watch and see what happens. But I guess we'll see what happens. Jay is here. The boss is in the house. Jay Cal, hope you're well. We got, who is this? Devin. Maybe you guys will know. What does it say? Do you know Chad Epic? I don't know. You'll have to answer that. Unseen Shifter. Live all the way from Jeremy's living room. It's Unseen Shifter. And Willie Bowen is in the house. Hey, Willie, good to see you in here, my friends. Please speak up if you're in the chat, guys. We have a full hour today. I think we might be able to do this in an hour today. But we'll be talking about NWA USA. We're doing a deep dive into it's season 4. It's episode 1, the season premiere. We'll be looking at the results from NWA Power. Jeremy's going to give us the UWN results from Championship Wrestling with Hollywood and Memphis. And Dave's going to do some fantasy booking and lead us in some fantasy booking around Pretty Empowered, your NWA World Women's Tag Team Champions. Doty's here. Doty, my friend, welcome. This AEW shenanigans is an epic storyline if it ever works. And they're in very fucked up situation if it's real. Boy, yeah, isn't that the case? Can you imagine going to work and something like that happening at your workplace and not seeing some firings, happen? But see, sticking with the NWA, Willie said, hey, Tyrus isn't the world's heavyweight champion. He can be one of the rides at Disneyland. Well, it is true that after 74, Tyrus is not the holder of the 10 pounds of gold. And we'll see what ends up happening.
Oh, man.
I'm told you guys can't see my face, which is perhaps a good thing. If you can't, please let me know, or maybe it's just Jay. You can't?
No.
Oh. Okay. Let me try that.
No.
Not working?
No.
Wow. I don't know why that would be. I will remove myself from the stream for a second, and I'll be right back. You guys want to carry on talking about AEW? That'd be awesome. Give me a minute.
Yeah, we get to run amok. Amok. So yeah, I agree with Doty. If this is a work, then they're in a great position. If it's a shoot, then they are screwed royally. There you are.
I'm here now. That's great. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Jody says Billy hacked my camera. Well, you never know. I'm largely complimentary to Mr. Corgan, so that's good to know. Apparently, I can be seen. As I say, it was probably better the other way, but here we go. Yeah, crazy week in wrestling for AEW. Uh, hey, Lamb's here. Hey, Lamb. Speaking of the Young Bucks, they kicked in a forbidden door in CM Punk's locker room door. Yeah, that's what it sounds like for sure. Uh, it's fighting. You know what made me buy it in the end, guys, was, or at least so far, was hearing like Ace Steel hunked a chair at one of the Jacksons and then bit and pulled hair. Like, if it's a street fight, anything goes. And, that's what Ric Flair used to talk about, and some of the guys in the old days. It really, like, if you're actually doing this outside the ring, he'd go for an eye. He'd do something to you. But Willie says I still have a black screen. You guys can see me okay?
I can see you fine.
Yep.
All right, great. Well, either way, we'll carry on and we'll get into it this week. Let's go while we're here, and thanks everyone for showing up to this, to NWA USA Season 4, Episode 1 from September 3rd. And it is the season premiere of USA. It's a whole bright. I always get excited for the season premieres of Power and the first few episodes. You guys excited for this season, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And seeing some of the new talent that comes out of this, Dave, is it you got a good feeling after 74?
Looking forward to new talent, and it looks like we have some ROH people possibly joining the crew. So it's always good to see new faces.
Yeah, and one of those new faces is right off the bat for, as I say, episode 1 of USA for this season, and because we enter, as we have been, with a cold open with Joe Ocasio. I hope I'm saying that right. Versus Gustavo, versus PJ Hawks, versus Colby Carino in a 4-way match. They've been kind of opening the shows like this as it goes along recently in some of these 4-way matches. So Joe Ocasio is making his debut, so we all know what that means in the NWA. And Gustavo has to be happy that he's not going to be the one watching the lights tonight for once. He's already in the ring with Joe and PJ Hawks. When Colby makes his entrance, he's actually being introduced, but Jamie Stanley comes out with Colby, and Stanley takes the mic from Kyle Davis and says he's brought Carino as he's looking for a winner to associate with. They're talking, which of course Jamie Stanley is tremendous at, and referee Scott. Is it Wheeler? Or that's Kevin Wheeler. Anyway, the referee starts the match, and Colby kind of rushes to the ring. There's even some like, can he be counted out right now? Outside the ring. Yeah. It's sort of a free for all as Colby attacks PJ from behind. Gustavo attacks Colby. Ocasio, who's kind of working heel here, attacks Gustavo with Colby's help. It's a bit of a cluster all the way around. PJ and Colby fight outside, and pretty soon everyone's out there with dives, and PJ coming off the top turnbuckle to the floor. This is a kid who, the first time I ever saw him was when he was trending on Twitter, jumping off that second floor of, I don't know, the Mall of America or something into the ring down below. And it was unbelievable. The highlights for this were PJ's suplexes, Gustavo's suplex reversal into this neat jawbreaker. I thought Ocasio had a decent performance, and the ending comes when Gustavo and Hawks are out on the floor, and Stanley drills Ocasio in the face, which allows Carino to hit the sunsetter. Not a great one for a victory. Jeremy, your thought about this match?
It was an okay match for me. Way too much time spent outside. I felt that's one of the downfalls of a multi-man match is you're gonna have people that unfortunately have to take powders outside. Ocasio's stuff looked stiff and good. I feel that he's going to be a nice addition to the roster, and especially I've seen going into the junior heavyweight hunt. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Dave?
Um, it wasn't a bad match, but it could have been much better. Like you said, they need to keep it more in the ring, but with multi-man, they have to highlight certain matchups. So somebody who does have to take a powder, that's really the only problem I see with multi-man matches is not everybody can be in action at one time. But I mean, it was a good one, and I mean, Gustavo, he didn't win, but he didn't lose. He
Right.
wasn't the one that was pinned. So I mean, I like that they do have some undercard guys that can work,
Right.
and that they're building them up on USA. And I think that's what that show should be used for. Use them as enhancement talent until you end up having two enhancement talents start feuding about who's the better. That hey, we've lost all these matches. I can beat you. No, no, you can't. Yes, I can. And then hopefully you build somebody up and you're able to move them on to power as an enhancement talent, but they have a name established already.
Right. I almost feel that way about guys like the Country Gentlemen right now, who might be more than that in their particular area, from the cheers that they were getting down in the Tennessee area. But that's exactly what I would agree with you. Like that we get out of NWA USA is new talent. I mean, some of these guys I'm sure have been around for years, but the opportunity to what is this? It's a tag team. We have a special guest today. Who is this, Jeremy?
This is Natalia, my granddaughter.
Oh, she's beautiful. Hi, Natalia. Oh, she's looking right at us.
That's you. Yes, that's you on screen.
Very good. Future NWA World Women's Champion right there,
Yep.
everyone. Lamb says, didn't see much of last season, but seeing them bring in unknown talents and wanting to build them up is a good thing. It sure is. It's one of the reasons why NWA USA kind of grows on me every week. Plus, the new setup makes a huge difference on screen. We'll talk about that as well. We'll do that now. We get Galley and Sky and Storm, and the reason I even mentioned that we go to the booth is that while they're talking about there's a national title tournament that we're going to see right here on NWA USA for the number one contender. To that particular title, the setup is great. Like I even like the new purple jackets that we saw, debut at 74. I dig the black ring that they're currently using. I've heard they're renting from who is it now? Is it Leland Race? I don't know. Maybe it's their own at this particular. It looks fantastic. And the screen that Kyle Davis has behind him now, the video screen, the wall, is such a nice upgrade from the equipment that they've had before. Speaking of Kyle Davis, we have him with the Fixers. The new United States Tag Team Champions are out with sprinklers and rocket pops and USA flags and headbands. There's a lot of yelling in this particular, as there always is with Wrecking Ball Legursky, who is hilarious. Kyle asks or tries to ask what is up for the Fixers now, and Jay Bradley has Fixers rule on a piece of tape over his title right now, of which there's only one title belt present, which I thought was a little odd. I don't know what's up with that, but there has been some talk around those particular belts, so maybe something's going on. Um, basically Bradley says the Fixers appreciate the support of the fans. You know, Jay did some praying and took his Fixer cream, and he's now realized that the Mortons and the NWA go hand in hand. He offers to shake Ricky's hand and calls him out, but the Mortons don't come. And Wrecking Ball like, well, they're eating the Rocket Pops. Are they lactose intolerant? Wrecking Ball asks, and Kyle's like, yeah, that's got to be it. It wasn't what you've been doing to them for the last few months, but that's fine. They say they're going to defend the belts really soon. They were loud, painful sometimes, mildly amusing. That's the Fixers. Dave, what did you think of the segment? I know you went out and bought Rocket Pops, so you must have thought something out of it.
Yep. Saw that and I'm like, okay, I haven't had Rocket Pop since who knows when, probably pre-internet. So I myself went out and got some bomb pops. I thought it was for me, it's always good when the Fixers are on screen. And I'm glad Jay's back from his quote unquote injury. It's just, they get the crowd going, and I think they'll be a good representation of the U.S. tag titles on USA, and then every once in a while have them show up on Power. But they need to build those titles up and build up some teams, and I think it's a good start.
Yeah, I agree. Jeremy, I know we all generally love the Fixers around the NWA. I can see a point in the future down the road when they get to be a bit like, all right, can we move on from this particular shtick? But are you loving the Fixers right now?
I'm starting to get why I like them, and it's because they're me and I'm them. I still love bomb pops. I still think that cereal is a meal. It is breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. So if I eat it 3 times a day, they're all important, right?
Right.
I don't think about lighting off fireworks inside sometimes. If I want to light off a firework and I happen to be inside, sometimes I have to be told, no, you got to go outside. I think at some point we will see a turn in them. I'm not sure when, but I'm hoping that it comes while they're holding the title. The shtick is starting to get a little old, so, with the titles on the line, maybe that'll seriousn them up a little bit.
It doesn't feel like they came in all that long ago either with Colby, and just as a couple of funny lugs and galoots to back him up, but they just so easily embraced the fans wanted them as faces, so here they are. Lamb says he thought he missed the announcement of the national title tournament, but it was announced so randomly, like it meant nothing. That's the only issue I have with last week's USA episode. This is an NWA problem overall, just not announcing stuff. We didn't hear about Celebration 74 until, at least I didn't, until the day it happened, right? There were matches made, you could argue, from 74 night 2 that maybe could have been announced before the end of night 1. But maybe couldn't have. So, but this is something that they have done before, and I agree. It's a bit of a problem, and this is. I'm really trying to keep positive on USA. Season 4 means like the show hasn't been around all that long, and hopefully they're going to continue to work out the bugs and figure this stuff out as they go. Dodie and I were actually talking about in one of the Discords, he said, I like the screen behind Kyle Davis. Now, when do we get a wired mic again? And I agree, that old school wired mic, guys, that used to, actually not even just in the olden days. I think it was Dodie was mentioning that Dave Marquez used to have one, at least
Yeah.
that long thin style, and how we'd like to see the old school kind of stuff come back for studio wrestling. Would you guys, the little things like that matter to you guys?
Yeah, I like I'm as it's been pointed out in certain servers. I tend to be a little nitpicky on some things. I notice the small details on stuff, so I like those aesthetics. It's something that I'm familiar with, that I grew up with, and it's just a small, nice little touch and a little nod.
Yeah, Dave, you're an old school NWA fan. Is it good for you?
I like old school up to a certain point,
Right.
but I mean, to me, it does add a little of the old school charm, but it doesn't kill it for me if Kyle's standing there with the wireless, because I mean, they take the mics, and I mean, they've taken the mics into the ring, they've taken it over near the crowd, or with a wireless mic, it just gives you more space to roam.
Yeah, and I've argued before, argued in the clinical sense, that like there's some new age things that I'd like to see. There was a time where I think it was Jared Fritz was wearing black medical gloves in the ring, and I thought it looked great. It looked like a UFC referee. It gave it that match a real sense of legitimacy.
Yeah, it means something.
Yeah, and I thought that would be a nice modern twist if they were to do that, but maybe not for every match. Willie Bowen asks, if the fixtures of the United States Tag Team Champions, are they the number one contenders for the NWA World Tag Team Championship? Traditionally in the NWA, yes. But we've never heard anything about that before in the Lightning One era. I would argue we haven't heard anything in the Trowbridge or the, or the Tharp era either. And it wasn't like you became U.S. Tag Team Champions and now we're getting a shot at the world. It wasn't like that for any belt. Jeremy, do you remember like a national champion? Just I've won the national title. Well, actually, that's a terrible example to bring it up because there were in some areas where national champions did get shots at the world title. But I didn't see that happen very often when it came to belts. Even if it was an official status, I never saw any action from them being the number one contenders.
Unless they were just a pure chicken shit heel or something, or it suited that area, it very rarely. And I don't, as a fan, I don't want to see somebody get one title and then immediately cash in and immediately be a two-time or two belts, per se. Let them show their worth a little bit. Show that they can carry a title.
There were times, Dave, Steve Corino, I think, was like NWA North American champion before he became world champion. And, the Tokyo Monster Kahagas vaulted from that title and the national title, although not in that order, into the world's championship. What do you think? Should they be the number one contenders as U.S. Tag Team Champions to the World Tag Title? Should they get a shot?
I'd say let them establish themselves as the U.S. Tag Champions, get a couple wins under their belt, and not so much go after the champions, but go after the other teams that are wanting to go after La Rebellion. Say, hey, we're already champions. We want to become twice the tag team that we are now.
Yeah, you could always use it depending on who's got those titles too, as a way to elevate that U.S. Tag Team Champions, right? Like if the fixtures went 20 minutes with La Rebellion on a pay-per-view somewhere, or like on a deep episode of Power, that could be a lot of fun, I think, too. Pollo Del Mar is here. Welcome, Pollo. Always good to have you in our chat. Thank you for coming. And Dodie says, Jack Stain is a tank. I want to see him as a badass MF-er heel, not a chicken shit cowardly heel. I look, I swear a lot in real life, guys. I'm just trying to keep Jay monetized. That's all. But we move on, and this to the part where the only problem I had with USA this week, which I thought was a pretty decent show. May Valentine's with Austin Idol and Ricky Steamboat. Jeremy's already closed his eyes because he knows where I'm going. May asks, how do you feel, Ricky, about the NWA making a comeback? And Steamboat, who, by the way, still looks fantastic.
Yeah.
He says they're their main event on the scene now. His roots started here. Idol, of course, says, I'm the one who brought the NWA back to Resurgence, and it's all me, 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 me. May asks, how does Idol feel about the format for his son Sion's number one contender? And Idol says, well, like my son's the second greatest wrestler to come out of the NWA. But the format sucks. And Ricky says, look, Austin, this is a format we use to showcase talent. And if Sion's as good as you say he is, then he won't have any trouble keeping the title. So May says next week we're going to have a 4-way match with a title opportunity at the Burke. And Steamboat, who drops Leilani Kai's name, by the way, which is great. This is where it goes off the rails for me. He says, you watch these women, there's no gaps. You can't see through it at all. And I want, how did this particular segment make it to the air? Why didn't somebody stop this and say, Ricky, and Ricky, he's been in this industry for God knows how many years. We all know what this is and how it's a performance, an athletic performance, but we don't want to be peeking at the man behind the curtain working the machine. Dave, Ricky says this. Did it bother you at all? Like it did me. I wanted to claw my eyes out when I saw it.
Well, Ricky seemed a little, I don't know if it was shook, but unsure of what was actually happening. We weren't told like about the national title. If you're going to have a tournament, set up a bracket, let us know what's going on.
Right.
They're jumping here and there, and I'm not really sure if Ricky was never the best talker. He let his in-ring work speak for itself.
Yeah.
They were relying a little too much, I believe, on the history and legacy of having Ricky there, that it may have overwhelmed him, that he's used to little pieces at a time. He did course, seem to with Idol there, that would rattle you anyway. So
yeah, that's an excellent point. He did seem to kind of go after he said it, but we've talked before about maybe this is something we could reshoot every once in a while. Jeremy, I have a feeling that you were similar to me in the reaction when you heard what came out of his mouth.
Yeah. And it all goes back to Dave's point. It just felt like it was just kind of thrown at him right before he got put out there. Kind of given a Cliff Notes version of bullet points of what he needed to run over and go down, and having to follow Austin Idol, who I really feel someone needs to give him a mental competency test. Sion's nowhere near the second greatest wrestler that the NWA has produced, and Austin Idol is definitely not the best that they've ever produced. But
it is his job to say so, though, right?
This is true. It is his job to say so and believe so, and his confidence is admirable, is admirable.
Right.
It felt very rushed and felt like they probably could have reshot this.
Yeah. I agree. And just to that, if you're the holder of title B's, are you the number one contender to to title A? Magnum TA wrestled Ric Flair for the World's Heavyweight Championship when he was U.S. Heavyweight Champion. And Willie says, didn't the Midnight Express wrestle for the NWA World's Tag Team Championship? Yes, they did. In one of my favorite segments with Arn and Tully and JJ, and if you could ever look it up on YouTube, look up the setup for that match. It's an excellent rivalry about how like you guys are our buddies and we partied up and down the coast together, but be happy with your US tag team titles. Don't overstep it. I think we're going to overstep. It's a great angle.
Yeah, and with Magnum TA and the Midnight Express, those are extenuating circumstances of two of probably the hottest commodities in wrestling at that time.
Yeah.
So to not cash in on something like that would have been dumb. Yeah.
They were already established as champions, and if they would have moved up, it would have done nothing but raise their value.
Yep.
But even in a loss, they still look good. He lost it by this much. They missed it by this much.
Yep. Yeah, and he looked great doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, and hopefully, if they ever end up doing, this with the U.S. tag titles or any other belt, the number one contender spot in those matches, they can do things that way as well. We get Luke Hawx versus Magic Jake Dumas for a qualifying match for the national title tournament. Luke's funny in the beginning. He says, "I'll show you a magic trick. I'll make my boot disappear in Jake's butt." And he follows up even the start of this match with a couple of kicks right to the ass. Luke out wrestles Jake on the mat. Magic Jake is not a gimmick. I appreciate that particular guy's got some talent. I think he's got some work to do, but Luke shows some power with his power slam and his backdrop. Jake uses the playing card that he takes from CJ's hair. CJ is hilarious as usual in this particular match with her. Here's Magic Jake Dumas behind me getting his hat fed to him essentially. Jake takes some shortcuts with the boots and the throat shot, and he ends up missing a moonsault that he gets up from immediately. And Luke looks firmly back in control, but Jake catches an up and over in the corner, hits a tombstone pile driver, which has not been his finisher up till now, and gets, to me, a surprising 3 count to advance. To get into, I believe, as a qualifier into this tournament. Dave, did you like this match? Were you surprised by the result?
Yes and no. I was surprised that Luke was the one in the match. They could have put someone else in there to take a loss if they're trying to push Jake. But you also want to have Jake wrestling with somebody that is experienced and can lead him through the match. Whereas he's only been wrestling, I believe, 5 or 6 years.
Right.
And 2 of those years were during the pandemic.
Right.
So I think Jake has an upside. I don't mind his gimmick, but I think they need to keep his gimmick to before and after the actual match. That he comes out, poof, flash paper, whatever, some fire. He can use a quote unquote illegal object during the match, but don't overhype it. Use it and lose it, and then get back and make your pin attempt. Get back into the match. I want the story in the ring to be told of wrestling. Outside the ring and before and after, he can do his little magician stuff, his magic hoopla stuff here and there, but stick to the wrestling while you're in the ring.
DKM made this point a while ago on the Alliance Guys podcast, where when Kevin Frazier would come out with the modern day hero gimmick, that actually I think Kevin made that particular comment originally, that he would do that sort of modern day superhero shtick before and after, but was told the best thing you can do is drop it when you're in the ring and just wrestle. Were you surprised by this one, Jeremy, that it went the way it did?
I was, and that's what I wrote down. That I was kind of surprised at this outcome, but it in a good way though, because I did expect Luke Hawx to win this. When in all, nothing against Luke Hawx, but he's a junior heavyweight as well as his son. You know, great, phenomenal talent, but it would take a little bit for me to see him in the national title picture.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good when you're like, oh, I didn't expect that. And this is recoverable for a guy like Luke. And if they wanted him in that picture, it is a qualifier. He could be in another qualifier down the road. But yeah, I was surprised as well. Doty, back to that number one contender spot. Should the U.S. tag titles be number one contender for the world tag titles? If they use the same roster of teams, then it should. But if they give us more varied teams, then I'm okay if it isn't. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. You've got to have a different variety of teams to be able to do that. And I think we're still establishing that in the NWA right now, or constantly reestablishing it, maybe is probably more accurate. And certainly that's understandable. We have May Valentine with Colby Carino and Jamie Stanley. So good order, the continuity as we've been talking about so far. May asks, what brought you together? And Stanley says, well, look at this guy. He's sharp dressed. He's because I'm a top guy. I like to coach potential winners. And May asks Colby, do you really need a manager? And Colby's like, no, but look at him. He's tall, he's tan, he's jacked, he oozes branding. And with his help, I'm going to open campcarino.com. Where you can have, and they kind of make stuff up on the spot. You're going to have music. You're going to have, finding tanning booths in your area. It's a little amusing for $60 a month, and you can have a membership there. May asks what the goal is, and Colby goes, May, you ask me this every single time, and every single time it's the same answer. It's about the NWA World Junior title. And cementing, my name and the Carino name in NWA history with Stanley's help. Jeremy, when I heard him talk about this, I'm like, oh, he's not done with the junior NWA World Junior title. And, I thought maybe he'd be going into TV, having not been able to defeat Homicide with his cash in. You see Colby becoming World Junior Champion at some point in the future?
I can. I really can. I know that he used to get a lot of flack, especially from Kevin Frazier on the Alliance Guys.
Yeah.
He just did not care for Colby Carino at all, and he is the tough pill to swallow. He is kind of rough around the edges. He was very rough around the edges still, I felt, but he's one that he's a viable candidate. I really feel he is somebody that could take it because he's willing to do it by any means necessary. And so campcarino.com is up for grabs on GoDaddy.com at $69.99 plus commission.
I looked too. Yeah.
Did you?
I did.
Yep. But yeah. I was excited, but now I'm sad because I was willing to pay the $59.99 a month to find out what it's like to be Colby Carino.
Yeah, that I'm not sure I could swing that myself, but Doty says, I mean, yeah, he sees him as champ. Colby, PJ, and Kerry.
Yeah.
Dave, there's Colby, for me, I'm inclined to love Colby Carino because his dad was one of my favorite wrestlers of the era.
Mhm.
But I really feel like Colby has improved dramatically, and I didn't
Yes.
think he was terrible when he entered. I really like Colby as a potential junior heavyweight champion. How about you?
Yes, and as Doty had written, you've got Kerry and PJ. You have a second generation that they can just pass the belt around over the next 2 or 3 years, whether it be every taping, if they do 2.5 to 3 months, change the belt up, or if somebody goes on a long title run, you can finally do a big switch at a pay-per-view. But I mean, you have three guys there, and you have Homicide, who is the current champ. I mean, you could set a story up for the next 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
with just second and third generation wrestlers. And Colby really doesn't even need a belt. But what he could do for a belt if he held one, whoever beats Colby for that belt, if he does end up with the junior heavyweight,
Yep.
that shine on them, taking it from the bad guy, the second generation greatest second generation superstar.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's I see the junior heavyweight title in good hands if they just keep those two or three people involved with Homicide.
Yeah, and when he comes out with the jacket now, the greatest second generation wrestler, you can just see the storyline about to commence with Kerry Morton saying "Hold my beer," right?
Mhm.
So I think it'll be great too. We get our main event, and it is another new face to the NWA. They introduced Dak Draper as, I think, the living tall tale. He's always been the mile high magnum in
Yeah.
my experience, which is a much better name, by the way. Dak Draper's in the NWA. He's taking on Jack Stane, who's out with Chris Silvio. Uh, so Draper, I know peripherally, and although I know Doty's a big fan. Um, he's about 6'5", I think. They say he's 6'3". I think he's more like 6'5". He's been an ROH guy. He's had some indie titles, about 7
Mhm.
years or so of experience. I think mostly, and no disrespect to him, he's probably known for being either engaged to or married to Quinn McKay, over from ROH, right? Uh,
Mhm.
and she's very popular. Um, Dane, of course, wrestles with the vest on. He looks at the announce table. This is 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and Dane powers Draper into a corner a couple of times. He messes with him. And then Draper gets a drop kick and some offense, and Dane bails. We have Silvio saying, you got to get back in the ring. You got to get back in there, champ. And the vest comes off. And I thought that's a really good way to sort of very quietly show us as the viewers that Dak Draper is someone to be respected. If Jack Stane is taking off the vest, this isn't going to be 2 minutes after all, right? So very cool. He's back in the ring. He tries to pop the trunk early. He eats a springboard back elbow from Draper, who gets some good offense in a couple of more moves before Dane, um, pops the trunk, and he ends up. It's a weird bit of an ending, but he ends up eating this back elbow from Draper, and he just sort of snaps and he chokes Draper in the corner, and he's standing on the turnbuckle, and he starts stomping him into oblivion like a madman, and he pushes Jared Fritz out of the way, who calls for the bell, and he loses. I forgot to mention this is a national title tournament qualifier. He loses by disqualification to Dak Draper, Jeremy. um, all the refs are out, which I thought was a nice touch. And and Silvio tries to pull Dane off of Draper, and he gets grabbed as Dane turns on him and looks like he might crush Chris Silvio, who by the way is totally jacked underneath the jacket that he's wearing. He calms Dane down enough before Dane just leaves and we're off the air. Were you surprised by this one, Jeremy? And did you like the ending? And what did you think of Jack Draper?
I was completely surprised by this. Debuting guy, NWA, as we said at the beginning, we all know how this typically ends. And we brought this up last week. It would be nice to see the debuting guy, get the win somehow, not be staring up at the lights. And we got it. We got it this week. So, this is a huge step in the right direction. And cage match has Draper at 6'5", 265.
Yeah.
And billed from here in Colorado Springs as well. So that would have been nice to they would have gotten a little cheap pop out of me for that.
Right. Yeah.
But totally shocked by it. I feel it was the right move though. It broke that consistency of a debuting persona staring up. So I liked it.
How about you, Dave? Do you know Jack Draper? And if either way, were you impressed?
I was impressed. He does have very good size. I've seen him at a few of the ROH shows when they were running up here in Baltimore. He wasn't given a big push, but he's a very competent wrestler. He fits in several different ways. He can be in there. I mean, size-wise, he fits in with what the NWA is looking for, at least what I believe Billy is looking for. 6'3" to 6'5", 250 plus.
Yeah.
He has the height. He's not as big as Dane, but to overlook that, he got the win because Dane couldn't control his emotions.
Yep. And Doty, he looks strong, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He didn't take the win by cheating.
Right.
He got the win due to just not so much outsmarting Jax, but just playing the game. He went by the rules, and by the rules, the referee was pushed away. That caused the disqualification. He got the win. Now down the line, Jax will want to get his win back.
Right.
So that sets up a story for him to come back. He's in the national title tournament. Even if he doesn't win, I can see Jax saying in his mind, you caused me not to be able to get my national championship back. So I'm coming after you. If he's here for this taping and the next taping, you have a good 5-6 months work out of him, depending on if he goes back to ROH or just does independence. It's good having new faces come in, and he didn't have to get the win to get over.
That's right. Elevated just by that booking with Dane. And Doty agrees. He's got the size of the look and he can talk. It's a great upside on this guy. Willie, I just wanted to highlight that you mentioned that Danny Limelight should wrestle Homicide. I think Jeremy's going to talk about Danny Limelight later on today, so we'll get to him in just a few minutes. Let's go through just the results. We'll kind of go back and forth for NWA Power Season 10, Episode 2, which I will be talking on tomorrow night with DKM on the Alliance Guys podcast, as Jay's got the night off. Genocide versus Chelsea Green versus Kylan King versus Taya Valkyrie with the winner getting a shot at the Burke at Hard Times 3 in New Orleans. And this one ends with Taya pinning Chelsea with the road to Valhalla in a four-way match that lasted 4.5 minutes. Jeremy, what did you think of this fight overall?
It was a good showcase. I know that it was a number one contenders match, but it was a nice showcase that these are four of the top women in the NWA and who to watch out for. I was happy with the ending, but I would have been happier if Genocide had won. But it's still early on in the season, so hopefully there's another chance for her down the road.
Yeah, we're not going into any of this stuff, but I didn't like Jenna's work in this match, and I normally do. I didn't think that it came across all that well. But anyway, I'm saying too much already because we'll talk about that one tomorrow night. Kyle Davis with Billy Corrigan after a new video package opening. They always seem to update those pretty well right after the pay-per-views. Billy says, he bought. They told him he was buying 3 worthless letters 5 years ago, and they ain't saying that now. And they're going to be at the Chase for the 75th anniversary, and they're going to have a 100th anniversary. And he talks about Tyrus and Murdoch and how Camille had the best matches on both nights. He drops in Power as a brand new and says, watch. He talks about Mickey James as well, and watch out because something's coming for that soon. So little tidbits of information there, but we do get EC3 versus Deontay Marshall. Dave, this is essentially a 2.5 minute match where EC3 goes over Deontay. Afterwards, there's a talk at the podium, which might be the most interesting, thing on the show, where the Control Your Narrative crew are facing the screen, and there's some, knocks that they seem to respond to, and they turn around. He cuts a bit of a promo, to Tom Latimer, saying he's going to take him through hell, and he's going to realize, that he needs to control his own narrative. Your thoughts on the match and the afterbirth of this match, as Mr. Cornette might say?
I thought it was a good match for what it was. It did. Deontay, I don't think it hurt him, being that he's new to the NWA. He's getting in there with somebody that is established in the wrestling game. EC3 did make short work of him, and it's one of these, just like when Tom was in the ring. Tom was imagining his opponent was EC3. EC3, even not by naming him, "Oh, you're Latimer," it's a good build-up, them not going against each other, but seeing their opponent as the other person.
Right.
That it's in their head. It's visualization. The Control Your Narrative, give or take. It is what it is. But I did notice he did seem a little winded as he was talking.
Yeah.
And it was a short match, but there were some hard and heavy moves. Yep. And it's the Control Your Narrative is what it is. The NWA is allowing them to bring their narrative to the people on Power in USA. So I think in the long run, everybody wins, even though their big man Titan is back at the corporation.
Right.
So I'm wondering if they knew anything of that, and if they'll address it down the line. But who knows?
Yeah, no idea for now. EC3 is an enigmatic character as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Control Your Narrative has the upside that the NWA hopes it does, but I think he does.
Yeah.
We have May Valentine with Aaron Stevens, Casey Rocks, and Rodney Mack. This is the announcement of Black Glove Management. You can't prove this isn't the question mark that as Rodney is wearing the particular mask, and there's no copyrights in Monrovia. May's confused. It's the first she's heard of this. I'm going to move on, guys. The less said, I think, the better for here. Allison Kay versus Camille for the World Women's Championship. This is a well-told story that ends with a very strong showing by Allison Kay, and Camille, and it ends in a time limit draw, Jeremy, where they're slugging it out in the center of the ring as the bell goes. And have a show of respect handshake at the end. My only complaint about this, Jeremy, was that I thought it should have headlined the show, given that, at 74, Camille did have the best two matches, in my opinion. What did you think of this match?
I agree with you. I felt like this was a main event caliber match. I liked how they placed focus on singling out a body part, showing all the different ways and moves that you can do to manipulate and injure that part, and how the commentary picked up that and carried with what that took away from Camille. I loved how it ran out of time and how it ended, and I think this. I'm interested to see what this sets up for later on down the season between those two and our new #1 contender.
Yeah, it was good. And we'll talk about it more tomorrow night, but there was a lot of good stuff in this particular match. We have May Valentine with the Cardonas. Matt says he came back too early and Trevor attacked him from behind because he's afraid of him. Actually, Mike Knox, I thought, had the best part of the interview where you got asked, like, are you done with bully now that he put you through a table? And he's like, I don't remember that happening. When did that happen? It was amusing. VSK and Brian do their thing very short and sweet. And Matt says, when he's asked, are you comfortable managing the careers of your friends? He says, these aren't my friends. These are my family. And they walk off with Knox saying to May, kind of creepily, actually, I'll be your friend. She's like, yeah, no thanks. So if there was a complaint that I had about, the women's title match not being the main event, the response to that might be that it was Doug Williams versus Flip Gordon to end the show. I don't know if I'd quite say a clinic, but really a super solid, technical, speedy, scientific match that ends with Flip Gordon taking the win with a springboard stunner of sorts, a very close back and forth win that Nick Aldis is at ringside for, having come out with both guys together, which guys might really tell us something's about to happen with a new group being formed here. It wasn't lost on me that I just realized I missed a segment, but it wasn't lost on me that Flip had a U.S. flag on his tights, and what's his name? Doug had a very similar British flag on his, and I wondered, Dave, if something is being born here. What did you think?
Possibly another quote-unquote United Nations group. I think it could work. I'm not sure where they're going with this, because I thought Flip was involved with the Control Your Narrative.
He's got it on his vest.
But It's never really been said who the actual members are. If they do bring back the British invasion with Flip acting as a go-between, I'm not really sure where they're going, because when at 74, when they had their match, Nick referred to Flip as if he had never wrestled him before. And a couple of years previous, when a few of the ROH guys had come in, Flip had wrestled him. So I don't know if they're just thinking, oh, people won't remember this, but I'm not really sure where they're going. Maybe it's a testing of friendship. I'm not sure. But I personally like to see, I mean, we don't know what's up with Harry Smith. So if the British invasion or a grouping of Nick and Doug with Flip involved somehow, that could work. But I do know that Doug is currently injured and is taking the next month or so off.
Right. He announced that on social media. He'd hurt his shoulder.
So I'm not sure where it's going.
Jeremy, they're just to kind of cap this one off. I did forget that Odinson did charge in at the end of this match. They mentioned that Nick Aldis has suffered a severe concussion, and that's why he's not competing, or their plan was for him and Flip to form a team for this season, they say. But he takes out Gordon with that spray, and Aldis comes in and throws him out of the ring to further that along. What did you think of this? The ending to this?
I think this is more the proper way to present Odinson to us right at this moment. His mic skills aren't the strongest right now, so letting his actions speak instead definitely helps him out here. I don't know what this is going to produce between him and Aldis. It is starting to pique my interest, though.
He's got to get away from that European uppercut, guys. That Asgardian uppercut. Calm down with that thing. Anyway, that was Power for a recap. We will never do this show in 60 minutes. It's not possible for us.
But wrestling too much.
That's right. Let us go then to the UWN results with our intrepid roving reporter, Jeremy, to talk about Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and Memphis.
All right, so I will go through these lightning fast. We start out with Championship Wrestling from Memphis, episode 80, and the show opens with Dustin Starr and Shark Boy. Shark Boy announces the Shark Boy Battle Royal. The winner gets a shot at the Internet Championship next week, and that will be our main event. Then we get the Hot Shots versus the LA Hustlers. The LA Hustlers get the win via disqualification. Mackenzie Morgan is backstage with Nix and Cassandra Golden. The championship committee has decided that there will be a three-way match for the Memphis Women's Championship, and Nix and Golden will face DDT, Dangerous Diana Taylor, next week. Then we jump to a match with Dangerous Diana Taylor versus Jennifer Justice. Taylor gets the win with the DDT. Then we go to Zay Washington, and he wants answers from Aaron Roberts. When he sees him, he will get them. Then we get a promo from Dysfunction. Dysfunction is simple. Dysfunction is a way of life. They are here to open the third eye, and Memphis Wrestling is on notice. Okay. It's interesting. I'd like to see them match up with the Institution over on Hollywood and see how that played out. Then we get a little promo from Memphis Heritage champ Mike Anthony. He says that there may have been some confusion whenever he took the title from Bret Michaels. He didn't just want the title, he wants everything that Bret Michaels stands for, and he's just getting started. Then we get a match with Trace Lee Hunt versus Martin / Precious. We start out with Martin, and through various assaults on the head, we get Precious rearing his head. Hunt ends up getting the win with the roll up. Then we jump to our main event, the Shark Boy Battle Royal. The winner receives a match for the Internet Championship against Say Washington next week. We've got the debut of Storybook Prince Gaston, Perky Will, Ray Collins, and Brian Bilal. We also have Colton Cage of the Hollywood Clique involved, Shark Boy, Kid Wrestling, all three of Dysfunction, Geo Sharp, and we were supposed to get Derek the Prince, but Van Vicious took his spot instead since Derek the Prince is his personal assistant. That didn't work out so well for Van Vicious. No sooner than he got in, he was tossed out. In the end, Colton Cage, who had played possum for a good majority of the match, sweeps in, gets Shark Boy, tosses him over, and he gets his shot at the Internet Championship next week.
Nice.
And we jump to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. This is week 3 of the Golden Opportunity. We start out with Danny Limelight, Bateman, and Willie Mack talking about their upcoming main event later on in the episode for their shot at the United World Heavyweight Championship at the Red Carpet Rumble. Then we jump to match between United Wrestling Network World Champion Jordan Clearwater against Colt Boom Boom Cabana.
Ooh, the timing on this one.
Poor guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clearwater comes out with the Embassy Prince Nana and Invictus Cash. The match starts out with Cabana at a major disadvantage, and the Embassy looking for a way to interfere. Cabana comes close, but Clearwater answers with a near fall from the Midas touch. And the commentary was quick to point out that they believe this is the first time anyone is kicked out of the Midas touch. The ref is taken out, and a giant of a mystery man enters the ring. He immediately dispatches Colt. This allows Clearwater to roll on top of him and retain. Then we move straight to our main event match with Willie Mack, Bateman, and Danny Limelight for the Golden Opportunity Finals. The winner here goes on to the Red Carpet Rumble for a shot at the World Championship. We get a series of pin attempts early on. Mack is then dispatched outside. He attempts multiple times to get back in, but is denied each time being worse than the last. Limelight and Bateman take turns going out. Then Limelight hits Bateman from the outside with a tornado something. It was a corkscrew. Then we get Limelight gets a close 2 count on Mack. Bateman makes it back in and delivers a thunderous clothesline to Limelight. All three are down on their knees, brawling. Bateman and Limelight are the first ones up. Limelight is knocked out of the ring, and Bateman and Mack prepare and then proceed to clobber each other with elbows and chops. Mack getting the upper hand, drops Bateman, goes up, lands the 6-star, which is immediately followed up by a double stomp from Limelight to the back of Mack. Limelight gets the pin for the 3, and your new number one contender and well deserved for the UWN World Heavyweight Championship is Danny Limelight. Yay!
Hell of a showing. And, you know, we talk about the UWN at the end of this every week saying, you know, it's if you're not watching it, go and watch it because it's such a great product. Tell us about Jordan Clearwater for those who might not know and how he's presented in UWN versus NWA.
This is one of the things that they were pointing out during the match, that he is something of a phenom. You know, he just picks everything up so fast. He is their world's champion. He's now defeated not only Colt Boom Boom Cabana, but Chris Dickinson, Willie Mack. He is being presented as a top tier talent and doesn't need the backing of the embassy, but it's a smart business move on his part to ensure that he keeps that title. You know, whereas in the NWA, we don't really get anywhere near that presentation of Jordan Clearwater. But it's early on in the season with the things that Billy Corgan had to say on the episode of Power. I am very optimistic and I'm very stoked. Watch the UWN, watch Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, watch Championship Wrestling from Memphis. David Marquez made a point to point out on Twitter. That's the blueprint right there of how you build up talent and stuff is in Memphis, and how you build a show and everything is in Memphis. So if you're not watching, do that. And WrestleCenter901.com for all your wrestling center training needs.
There you go. Thank you very much for that. Let's go to the chat for a sec here. Willie says, how about bringing in Rob Terry to the British Commonwealth Tag Team? I thought about that before. It's an interesting thought. What do you guys think, Dave? What do you think of that combo?
Oh, you definitely have some size there. I'm not sure if he's still wrestling.
Yeah.
But there was talk, and I mean, I'm not really sure. I'd have to go online and check. I don't know what nationality or how Flip presents himself. Under what nationality, whether it be, is he U.S., is he Canadian? Because, I mean, I think if they would do United Nations or the embassy where you have several different people all come together and form another, it's strictly business, but not under that name.
Right.
Where they have if they would have a international tag team, let's say La Rebellion, they fall under the embassy. Then you have a couple guys that are English. You maybe have somebody from Canada. You have somebody from the United States. And you have 4 or 5 members that collectively, they'd be a group, but each of them is doing their separate thing, but they watch each other's back.
Yeah, it's interesting. Man, you were always booking, and I know we're going to do that in a second. That's a great one too. Carlton Paget, who I don't think I've seen the name before, but welcome. Thank you for being here. He mentions here, this is the NWA's chance to really grow. AEW's having problems, and there's no leadership as we speak. NWA could run a territory style again, running territories in Kentucky, Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia. It's really what, since coming off the UWN model, it's really what I think originally Dave Marquez had planned for the UWN, and has kind of shown us with, sort of the way that championship wrestling is presented, and how it's been explained to me as well by those in the know, is that you don't really need to do that. You don't need to go to all the other different territories physically. You can run it out of 1 or 2 locations, at least at the level we're talking about now. But he mentions also now Louisiana with the territory. There's too many good wrestlers in one roster. There's lots of great talent out there these days, and I think that the NWA and the UWN too can benefit from this. Um, I don't know if the AEW situation has any real bearing on Mr. Corgan's plan. What do you think, Dave? Do you think there's opportunity now with AEW in some turmoil?
I mean, with the taping schedule, you could acquire some talent, but I mean, AEW, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with them. But I mean, you have some talent that is in the NWA that are unsigned. They're able to show up for tapings, and then they go elsewhere. I mean, VSK has been on AEW Dark for I guess the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I mean, more power to them. If you're not an actual signed member of a promotion / federation, and you're able to work, I mean, work where you can, build your name.
Right.
But if you build your name up enough, somebody will sign you.
Right. Yeah, you're 100% right. You know, and Doty mentions Dave Marquez, ironically, doesn't believe the territory system has a place in today's modern world, just to what we were talking about. I mean, I don't know the business well enough, but I know enough not to argue with Dave Marquez. Dave Marquez arguably is the reason why I started watching NWA again, and his influence there. Doty says, despite not a territory, I would love the NWA to work with other promotions for their expansion, kind of like what they did with Tried and True and Wildcat, and I gather what they're going to be doing again. There's some mixed feeling amongst the Alliance-Wrestling.com family about whether or not we should work with other promotions. Again, I say we because we're emotionally invested into this product. I don't know. What do you think, Jeremy? Are you a guy who likes to see them work with other wrestling promotions?
There's definitely value to it when you look at the fact, and Puyo brought this up in yesterday's chat, that she's got to work with Dr. Tom Pritchard.
Yeah.
You know, then you bring in somebody like Joe Kazana, who has a history in St. Louis. I think if you can get promotions that are already known in the area, like they did with Tried and True, I think it is, in Kentucky and Oak Grove, you know, they can go back there at any time and they're going to do good business.
Right.
You know, and I think the small, and this is another word that Puyo used yesterday, organic way that they are starting to plant their roots in certain areas, combined with what Billy said on power, I think we're seeing the foundations of possibly a territory system being built up with the NWA as the linchpin that holds them together again.
Right. You know, and Doty mentioned that Hammerstone would be another possibility for the British Commonwealth. Hammerstone's locked down elsewhere, I believe, and he's got to be the hottest commodity if he ever comes free. And I don't know that he'd come. Look, I'm not. We all love the NWA, but I don't think the NWA is even on the level of where he's at right now, currently in the 20-year plan, right?
I would say so.
Yeah, he'd be going up, looking for larger money and paychecks, I think. But that would be great. Anything is possible in our funny wrestling universe that we live in. Let's get to the last segment we have tonight, the main event tonight, so to speak. Dave is going to fantasy book us a little bit of what's happening with Pretty Empowered moving forward. Kenzie Page and Ella Envy, your NWA World's Tag Team Champions, who retained the titles at 74. All three of us on this show, if I can hopefully not steal any of your material here, Dave, but all three of us on this show predicted that they were not going to retain because of what was being shown with the, Kenzie was a face, Ella was a heel. We all saw the turn, and none of us saw the turn, but we saw it at 74 when Kenzie kind of fooled us all. Dave, talk to us about what's next for them. Who do you see coming after the belts, and is it in house or is it someone from outside? What's the future for Pretty Empowered?
Well, Kenzie did show her true colors. She did turn, so they are both officially bad girls, if I could say that. But right now, I'm looking over the roster. There are really no teams besides the Hex in the NWA that you can throw together a couple makeshift teams, whether it be, I think Missa Kate and Maddie would go well together, just the Attitude Girls. Throw them together, but they haven't proven themselves as a team, and I don't think they're ready for going up for the titles.
Right.
You could do, you have, let's see, Angelina Love, Taryn Terrell. Both of those are former knockout champions, but yet they have their own separate things going. You'd have to almost bring somebody from the outside in, and seeing that Chelsea is already involved with the NWA. Her and Deanna are Impact knockout champions. So it'd be champ. So I don't know if they're willing to work. Somebody gives up a title, or you have another team out of nowhere interfere. My pick would be, just because I like the name, Blonde Force Trauma, Ray Lynn, and Heather Monroe. If you have a chance, go online and just type in Heather Monroe tag team. And these girls can go.
They sure
and
can.
They're established. They're a team. They have a name. They dress similar. They're old school to the bone when you think tag team, whether it be men's tag team or women's tag team. They have finishing moves that they do. And like I said, they have a name. They dress similar. They work well together. The women that are already in the NWA right now are involved in other storylines. CJ can wrestle, but she is working as a valet for Magic Jake. So she's quote unquote out of the picture. Kylan King and Max, they both have had chances to go after the Burke, and they've both failed, so that they don't have to rebuild as much. But Taya is already, she just won that match, so she's been after the Burke. She's the next challenger. But does that mean until Hard Times 3, we're not going to see really anything with Camille and the Burke? And logically they would have to bring in somebody from the outside to go after the tag champions.
Doty's got a few, and Willie too. They're loving the All Japan if they could bring some talent in from there. But Doty's mentioned that Deanna's shown her interest in the NWA Women's Tag, and suggests, what about the Smiley Dragons? We haven't seen Kylie Ray in a while. We just did see Tootie Lynn Ramsey recently, and the Free Babes, who have made an appearance in the NWA before. What do you think of those teams?
They're all good teams, but they've seemed to either not be retained by the NWA or have gone their separate ways. I'm not really sure what's up with Kylie Ray. I know she's had problems.
Yeah.
I'm not one to say what her problems are, but
No.
I know she's had problems in the past, and it has interfered with her wrestling. So I mean, I like the Smiling Dragons when they were tagging, but when one of your members steps away, it's not just insert another person. They were
Right.
a team because of the way they interacted.
There's
So
lots.
I'm not sure where they're going with. I mean, the Hex. They're a great team, but they've already lost. They lost the belts, then they lost the rematch. So I think they're building up Allison Kay when she had her match against Camille. It was a draw. They're building her up for that new TV women's title, I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they're still going to keep them as a team. I like them as a team, the Hex, but I mean, Marty Bell is very good at what she does. So whether it be singles or a tag team, I think she's pretty safe. But I think the NWA, they had the belts made. They went with the belts, which was a good thing, but they didn't think for the future we need to get some tag teams established. Even if they're not here and made of current staff members, talent, bring in a couple tag teams that are semi known. I mean, before La Rebellion came to the NWA, not many people had heard of them.
Right.
The NWA is very good at either taking established talent and tweaking it and making them a little more well-known, or taking somebody that nobody's heard of, and boom, all of a sudden, you know who they are.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure if there's a current tag team in the NWA besides the Hex, and that would just be a retread of, hey, they're going against the Hex again. It's
Yeah.
a charm. They don't need to do that. They need to bring in some other established teams, whether it be established teams from the independents, but actual teams, girls that have worked together, and teams that want a championship. I mean, that championship can build so many names where a name doesn't need to build the championship.
Right. You know, Donnie mentions he loves Tootie Lynn. She looks too young, he thinks, and small compared to some of the NWA ladies. That's why she needs to be paired as tag teams to make her more fit in the Land of the Giants of the NWA. She's local talent for where the NWA is, very popular down there as well, and they really try to play up her mixed martial arts. I think it's mixed martial arts or background, or what she's doing now with it. But I would like to see them try to get more teams and more singles in the women's. I'd love to see someone like a Lindsay Snow, since we're talking about mixed martial arts, right? Somebody to come over for a short period of time, but one of those names, and some of these outside tag teams that we've been talking about here in the chat and that you mentioned as well, Dave. So it's interesting, and certainly it'll be interesting to see where it ends up going. I think that has to be it, though. The only 60-minute podcast that takes 90 minutes to complete. Other than Twitter, which is now up on the screen, tell us where they can find you, Dave.
I'm also over on Instagram at Dave Speedy. If you have any questions about the fantasy booking or any suggestions, I'm always up for that. I'm also over on the Discord, so if you're a member of the Discord, feel free to message me there. I mean, fantasy booking can go anywhere. We can look back at older storylines and see if they would possibly work here in the future.
Yeah, I would love to do that here. Yeah.
I mean, if you have any good quote unquote storylines or fantasy storylines that you would like to see the NWA possibly work in, who knows? I mean, if it's good enough to work one time, I mean, all you have to do is insert person A from the future or from the present into person A from the past, and we'll see what happens. Who knows?
Sounds like fun. Jeremy, you still only on Twitter, my friend?
I'm still only on the Twitter machine, but I have been mulling around possibly doing a MLW recap over on my Wrestling with the MMA YouTube page, since MLW will be firing back up for their fall season.
Yeah.
Nice.
Stoked for that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Super stoked for that.
I'm at NWAGold.com. I'm not doing a ton there right now. I will. But follow the Alliance blog. Our gracious host, J-Cal, at the Alliance blog, alliance-wrestling.com. Just before we go, or before we pitch those shows, just for everyone's, there's some great comments here. Willie says, Jessica Havoc, Rosemary, and Jordan Grace would be great in the NWA. And Dodie, Lindsay Snow, Holly Dead, Janai Kai. I want to see them here, and the return of Lady Frost and Debbie Malenko. I love some of those suggestions. Those are great. That's going to do it for us. Remember to tune in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, with the Alliance Guys podcast, normally with J. Kyle, DKM, and Jaden. I think it's DKM, Jaden, and me. Our particular Alliance Guys, Ric Flair, is off this card tomorrow night. So, as the self-appointed, I guess I'm Barry Windham to these guys now. If one of those guys is down, that's me. I'm stepping in to give DKM a hand tomorrow night, and of course Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, J. Cal himself hosts the hour, the hottest hour before Power, the pre-party at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, before Power, the flagship show, so to speak. That is it for us. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog, and until next time, we are The Alliance.